proxy in the Constitution. There's a few sort of established issues with doing that, in as much as it's basically giving the right of members voting rights to another individual to vote as they see fit. Right? So
no, that member, if you're using Chris as your proxy,
yes,
would provide Chris with your vote. You wouldn't be telling Chris to vote on your behalf. Okay. And we can also easily set up a mechanism whereby we can appoint a returning officer to handle these things.
Because generally speaking, as far as I understand it, there's two different types of proxies. One is a general proxy, which is basically giving another member the right to vote as they see fit. You're giving them your vote. And the other one is to specify in the Constitution that that all proxies need to be directed or limited proxies. Okay.
The intention is for it to be a directed proxy.
Right. Okay. Well, that probably.
So we can clarify that just by that word, actually.
Right, and also, it probably needs to. We need to see what the wording would be on that. So, from my point of view, for me to be comfortable to consider it, it would be being able to say that I require my proxy to vote in this particular way on these particular resolutions, and that needs to be stated in a prescribed form.
The intention is for it to be in writing,
yes,
as part of the record.
Right.
Okay, so you would be giving Chris your proxy in writing. It would be a form like the nomination forms. So once you get the nominations, there's another form for you because you're partying in Phuket and you've left Chris at home. And you've left Chris at home. You would send that proxy through Chris to the returning officer, and it would be documented. You want to vote for Brenda to be despot, and Chris is your proxy to hand that vote in at the annual general meeting.
I understand how it works, but what I'm saying is that needs to be clarified in the Constitution to make sure that the intent of it is actually written into the Constitution. The reasons being is that it's very easy in future for people to, for other members to perhaps obtain voting rights from other members and vote how they see fit on particular motions. I understand why you're doing it.
I'm not sure that has to be defined in the Constitution. That would need to be defined as a process that the committee is responsible for. So at the moment, any member present can vote. We want any member to be able to vote. We will establish a process that limits that, and the process will be managed by the Constitution, and it's also not without our scope to appoint any member of the society, now that we've set up a central communication hub with Google Workspace, to appoint any member to be returning officer. Emails, documentation and that comes in on that basis can go through the returning officer, be a matter of record in that hub and things like that.
I would argue that it does need to be in the Constitution, because I think we have proven before that with constant changes of committees, things aren't always handed on to the next lot. So someone down the track could look at what we've put in place and read it differently and act upon it differently.
That's correct. They could also change it.
Bronwyn's concern, which we do have concerns about for the whole thing. And can I just ask, if we're going to have that ability, is there going to be a ratio of present people voting against the people that are voting by proxy? Because you don't want to be a majority proxy vote.
We're not changing the core of that.
Right.
So,
I haven't got a written copy of this. Would you could ask you to just reread the words we've currently got, just in the context of what Bronwyn has said, and certainly when there's an alternative, I would refute what Sam was saying about how many votes should be here.
Section 20, Part 2, all votes are going to be given personally.
That's currently.
That's currently what we're proposing. Votes are to be given personally, by proxy in writing, or by electronic mail. A member's proxy must be a full member of the society. A member's proxy must be in attendance. So the only non-attendees who can vote for those who choose to do it so by mail. And we have the capacity to accept mail-in votes under the Electronic Transactions Act 2000. So, electronic signatures are legal. So if it comes in from an email you've given us as a member, it's a legal signature.
That hasn't authorised someone to act on behalf of a member for it to provide a vote.
No, it allows us to accept that mechanism.
That current wording doesn't give the committee the authority to act as Bronwyn was concerned about. Bronwyn was concerned about a member, members abrogating their voting intentions to a proxy, and that proxy voting however they wish. That wording doesn't allow it, wouldn't authorise that.
As Bronwyn mentioned at the beginning of the statement, it is a simple matter for us to change this wording and add a part.
Well, point of order, you can't. At this meeting, we can only vote yes or no to that motion. We cannot amend it here.
Okay.
The reason we can't amend it is everyone else in the society hasn't then been given the 14 days notice of the amendment.
I'm happy to reconsider this. It's a matter of wording that we make clear that the proxy isn't voting on your behalf, the proxy is passing on your vote.
Which I think that's...
And I can call another special. I don't want to be here for ages for a special general meeting when we can do this before the next annual general meeting, January meeting. Are people comfortable with that?
Well, we could decide to vote on it here, or if it doesn't pass, then you bring an appropriate one forward. If it passes, then you simply, with the community, have your procedures. They have the dual to that as to how you would vote.
Yeah. I personally think it's a procedural matter. I don't know that it's a constitutional matter to put that amount of structure in the Constitution about how the organisation operates, because as Brenda said, it changes all the time, and it doesn't matter whether it's our society, whether it's the federal government, or whatever little group. New committees come in, they adapt things their own way. It's happened this year with membership processes and things like that, from the way Bronwyn used to do it to the way Ian's doing it, things do change. I think it's a procedural matter, and it's not a matter of wording.
There is other issues in as much as the Constitution says one thing, but the overarching legislation, which is the Incorporated Association Act, actually requires that for a special resolution that members have to be present. So that's actually already tied into that act, no matter what we say in our act.
The state?
In our Constitution.
Yeah.
Right? So that then basically takes away the ability to be able to have a special resolution voted for by proxy or any other means, except for a member being actually at the meeting.
Yeah. So
it's not just a simple matter. There's quite a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and I'm not sure that have been perhaps looked at.
Which part of the legislation are you talking about?
Talking about Section 23 of the Association Act.
Which state act?
It's a state act, right? And so it specifically says that members need to be present. Right?
The special resolution.
Yes.
Okay, they are.
Right, yeah, but I mean in future, I mean the fact that you're changing that now doesn't negate that for
Well, what
future.
does the wording actually say?
Yeah, I can see. And
But you're thinking in terms of AGMs, not necessarily.
I'm not necessarily thinking things like this. Election of office bearers is the first intention because this is the first year we've had office bearers from other parts of the state, and other people who know them have been able to vote for them or against them.
so the Constitution states that to alter anything regarding the Constitution needs to be a special resolution. So that's stating that, right? And then the actual legislation itself, section 23, says, for the purposes of the Act, a resolution is a special resolution if it is passed by a majority of not less than 3/4 of such members of an incorporated association entitled under the rules of the association may be present in person at a general meeting of which the notice specifying the intention to propose the resolution as a special resolution was given in accordance with those rules.
There's a lack of clarity in that phrase
Well,
because
in the
under the rules of the association, who are present.
yes, yes.
So they're our rules,
So
not their rules. So under the rules of the association, who are present.
That's the legislation.
that's what the legislation.
I think what they're saying is that for most ordinary things like whether we're going to buy a new computer or who we're going to elect onto the committee, your postal voting would be okay. But for changes to the Constitution, it must be bottoms on seats and hands.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
So
That's cool.
just the clarity.
I'm not sure I read that the same way. I don't interpret that the same way.
If you look at the
That appears to me to be discretionary.
if you look at the interpretation online of the Legal Society in Tasmania, they actually say that in Tasmania, it's bums on seats. Basically.
I prefer to go to the Acts Interpretation Act of the Legal Society.
Once again, I move for it because it's something that once again, the whole scenario I think needs a little bit more clarification and a little bit more research to enable us to be able to vote in good conscience on what we're voting
the vote
for.
is all about.
Yeah. Because if you change it now, and basically what that is doing is if for instance we change it tonight and say that we're approving this, then there is nothing to stop, nothing to be as a safeguard to protect the members for future proposals. So
I'm really unclear.
So if we change it tonight, right, and we say, okay, we're going exactly as you worded it, right, and then the interpretation is that somebody uses that to be able to say the interpretation is I can go to all the people that aren't here tonight and say, will you give me the option to have your vote? I'm going to vote because
They're asking for their votes.
they're authorising them
To present their votes.
Yes.
They're authorising proxy to present their votes here.
That's
not.
correct.
They're not. This isn't authorising them to vote on them. That's one.
But unless it specifically says so, then isn't it open to interpretation that somebody can say that they...
I think that interpretation can be in any instrument we put out to advise people.
Can I ask why we have to use the word proxy? Because it sounds like you're talking about like a postal vote sort of thing. So why do we use the word proxy?
That's the word I've always used for that sort of thing, basically. It is a standard term for, I want to vote on this matter, this is my vote, I'm giving it to you to pass on for me, not to vote for me. It's my vote. Yeah.
I agree it's a standard term, but I'm not convinced that your interpretation, that it means I'm giving you instructions, because it works both ways.
But that would be in our administration of it, not necessarily has to be spelled out in every word of the Constitution. Now we have to remember also that our Constitution is our framework for acting in. We've all agreed to it. Even if we've found out after doing it that we're probably not in absolute compliance with the Constitution, and it's preferable that we are. Our Constitution is not binding. Okay? There was a High Court of Australia case, Cameron versus Hogan.
It's not legally binding.
It's not legally binding. Only in relation to matters of fraud and preventing someone from earning. They're the only two reasons that that's binding. It's binding ethically because we've agreed with it. So, I'm not suggesting that we break the rules of the Constitution, but if we break them by mistake, that's not a hassle. So what we're trying to do is the right thing. The basic principle is to give everyone the opportunity to vote, to put forward their vote. And if they want to do it by proxy, then they do it through the committee process, and it's passed on to their proxy, their vote to us. So my view is it's a procedural matter, not a constitutional matter. So once they give them the right to vote, because they're not in attendance, and they want to exercise that right, they do that by the process we initiate.
What other processes were considered? Electronic meetings, that sort of thing, can easily give other members access, and also give them access to the discussions that are held on items that are raised. Whereas if you do a proxy vote, basically they're making a decision without any reference to other members' opinions or questions, so they're making that decision in isolation. So is that truly a benefit to the society, basically?
It's a rare enough issue that it hasn't been given that much consideration, but very, very most highest principle is the election. The highest objective is the election of office bearers. So people can't come along and participate in the election of office bearers for the running of the society. And as we're becoming electronically, getting more access on a statewide basis, we've been having the meetings at my place this year, and the last one, there were only two of us at my place. So I'm buying less and less food for meetings. I'm buying because I'm more because we're doing electronic. So we have those meetings available. But setting up a whole meeting for another 80 people electronic would be sort of difficult.
Well, Facebook Live would be able to do it, and you can vote or make comments via Facebook Live, for instance.
Yeah.
So
that's not really an issue at this stage. But we can also invite people to make comments on that, and they can be presented to the meeting by the chair.
Well, that is the reason that we put our opinions forward tonight, just to give everybody here an opportunity to perhaps think about it a little bit more, because to be honest, when I first saw your email, I didn't really take in what we were doing tonight until I did go back and recheck it. Not everyone takes a lot of notice of their emails, so they would come along here tonight, oh, we've got to vote, oh yeah, okay, and not actually take time to think about it. And I think that is something that we need to be careful of when we're changing things, that everybody understands what we're actually changing and what's the objective behind it.
And just on that point as well, I would have thought that it would be, and I'm sure Steve would know, and be able to comment as well, that any changes to the Constitution or any processes like this should have come out as a separate email and gone to individuals separately, not buried at point 5 of a notice that is just entitled what's on in November.
I'd like to put the onus on people, if they're interested in our business, to read things.
I think
I'll hear hold so far.
I think I have to disagree strongly with that.
That's fine.
The onus is on the committee and on the society
I'll
to
move
make sure.
on. Another person wants the floor, so I'll just ask.
No, I'd like to move that the matter be adjourned until January.
Okay. Anybody like to speak to that?
The general meeting be adjourned until the date of the January meeting this year.
Yep, no, that's fine.
I'll second it.
You second that? In favour? Against? What I'll do is I'll try and clarify the wording to make sure. I don't want to put administrative processes in the Constitution. And that's what I think the issue around who are you voting for? Are you voting for them, or are you passing on their vote? The issue is to pass on the vote. I think that's an administrative process, not a constitutional matter. So I'll rewrite what I've done. I'll put it out again and
Ask for comments, perhaps.
ask for comments, and it's up to you to comment. But like I said, I'm not going to handhold people. So if you get an email and it says these are the matters that are being addressed, read it. It's not my problem, it's yours.
Well, there's some, there might be people here that can give you some other feedback right now to help you in deliberation. So, from my perspective, perhaps you could think about under what circumstances this proxy voting system is being applied for. So, you mentioned elections particularly, and certainly someone's mentioned the amendments to the Constitution do need 75% of the passing of the meeting, and I think Ron was probably right there for those that it's got to be bums on the seat to change the Constitution. Perhaps this, how you apply it, you might be thinking about how you apply it in the past.
Well, what I'll do is, by all means, email me with your thoughts. I'll also put out a request to all members about the matter. I'll leave it based around what I already have written, and I'll try and I'll ask them to give me comments before Christmas, so that it'll give me time to collate the comments and summarise them and put them out as part of the notice for special general meeting in January. I'd like to resolve it before the AGM, so that the members around the place can vote.
I mean, I've been very vocal in the past that we don't do enough to include members outside of the vote area, and in not only voting and meetings and activities, but all sorts of issues. So that obviously is something that needs to be addressed. But I'm just cautious that this is the way to go, and that this is basically using a big hammer to hit a small nail, and the consequences of changing this in the future are something that needs to be seriously considered.
Yep, no, fine. So we're moving on.
Yes.
Based on Ian's motion. And David?
No, there's actually two levels here. The first one is just to change the Constitution so that people can vote by email.
Mm-hmm.
Then we need regulations drawn up and how that is implemented. That does not go into the Constitution. That's a separate thing altogether.
That's right, that's the administrative process.
Any arguments about how it's going to be implemented anyway, the regulations would tell you that, and that would be the article that you refer to of the Constitution.
Yep. So what I'll do is the Ian's motion's been passed that we postpone and review, and I'll get stuff out before Christmas. Sorry, I'll get stuff out as soon as can. Please respond before Christmas so I can get it written up nicely for January, and we'll try and squeeze that one into 5 or 10 minutes.
No promises.
Go to Phuket on holiday, leave Chris here and give him your proxy. And we'll move, I'll close the meeting and we'll move on with Richard's Tall Tales of the Night Sky.
Tall tales. Lights, camera action. We need something dark and for me, please, to stream the. Hopefully, right? Well, okay. So, first up, if you press the right button, I'm going to talk to you tonight about the next couple of months. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Have you been promoted at all, Tom?
No,
That's it.
I'm sitting on the set.
Welcome back. Nice to see you. Yeah, as I was saying, so we're going to look at the December, January sky. November's already passed, but basically this is the summer sky that we're going to look at. And I'm only going to look at a few things because I'm sort of tilting towards observation rather than things like photography, which a lot of people don't do necessarily. So, but I will mention that incidentally. So, without further ado, hopefully this will work. I recognise him. No? No, I recognise him. Here comes the cello. Laurie. Picard. Theme music from Picard. Beautiful. One of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever listened to, including everything from classical, just superb. Jeff Russo, composer. Anyway, so the night sky. As we look north, I need my glasses. What can you see? Well, this is 10 p.m. December 31. Okay, so I decided to go sort of halfway through in the middle between December and January, and so everything we're going to see is sort of for that night sky. Actually, if I had the atmosphere effects on, you'd have it'd still be light. It's still like twilight. But anyway, we're not going to worry too much about that.
Where's the cloud?
Sorry?
Where's the cloud?
There's no cloud.
Where's the fireworks?
I just noticed it's got a strange effect. I've never seen that before. Anyway, so if you look to the north, what have we got? We've got Taurus dominating the northern sky. I just pulled this down. Is there a... sorry, it's not working. Oh, that's curious. Maybe...
You have no proxy to make it work.
Oh, it's frozen. There you go. That's interesting. Okay, you've got the planets first of all. So let's have a look at Uranus there. Taurus over here, the Hyades is that group of stars you can see over here. My pointer's not working, I don't know why. Should be there. No, it's gone there. Next thing, sorry, that's died. In Taurus, the brightest star is Aldebaran, of course. Now, you do realise that this is a bull, and that these are the horns of the bull, and it's upside down. So the star here, Aldebaran, is the right eye of the bull, and Ain, which is that little dot there, I can't remember what it is, Epsilon, I think. Epsilon Tauri is the other eye, the left eye. So it's upside down. About 5 or 6 degrees across, easy thing for binoculars to look at, and rather pretty. And of course, next to the Hyades, Aldebaran, hang on, move on a bit further, down there the Pleiades, very close. And the distance there is about 13 or 14 degrees. So it's quite an easy thing to spot in the night sky, naked eye visibility. And we all remember what the Japanese call the Subaru. People say there's only 5 stars there, but there are 7 at Pleiades. There's a lot more than 7, but it was named after the Fujitsu Heavy Electric Company or something. And the 5 companies got together and they made this, and that's with the big star on the bonnet, on the logo, is the company itself, made up of the other.
I wanted my daughter to turn her logo around. It's in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, if you look at the Pleiades, it's an arrow that points to the left or the right. Now, it should point here, or it should be pointing to the left. Naked eye visibility. You can see Mars down here, by the way, which is a splendid sight in the sky. The Pleiades, and what else I was going to say, just to dominate the proceedings. There's one more over here, M33. What's that? Anyone like to help me out? M33? The Triangulum Galaxy? It's actually quite big. And so I might talk to you a bit about that later on. So keep that in mind when we look at some of these objects, the Triangulum Galaxy. There we go. So a close-up of the Hyades. The Pleiades down here are half-sisters of the Hyades. Same daddy, Atlas. but different mothers. Pleione was the mother for the Pleiades. And the Hyades, does anyone know their importance in England? The rainy season in April. The Hyades brought the rains in April rains. So it's always been known they're the sisters of rain and so on. And of course that beautiful quotation, which I'll show you in a moment, from Lord Tennyson's poem, Ulysses. When through scudding drifts the rainy Hyades vex the dim sea. Doesn't ring a bell. It's a great poem in English language, in my opinion. Haven't taught English for many years. I would pick that as the best poem there is. Who wrote it? Lord Tennyson, Alfred Tennyson. Yeah. Poet laureate for Queen Victoria, and a favourite of hers.
No one's perfect.
No one's perfect.
Big Jagger wasn't bad.
No. Anyway, let's move on. So a close up of the Hyades. I'm not sure if that's an Adam Block shot or it's Jerry Lodicus. Jerry Lodicus. I'll turn it around so it looks more like what we're looking at in the night sky. Beautiful colours in those stars. So worth looking at through binoculars. It's the nearest cluster to, it's only 153 light years away, or something like that. Yeah, 153 light years away. So it's not too far. What's the next cluster that's pretty close by that's similar? The Pleiades. Pleiades are 400 and something light years away, so there's a bit of distance between them. But 625 million years old, magnitude 0.5, 338 minutes. So it's 5.5 degrees across, so it's quite a substantial size. They're consuming their hydrogen fuel and their fuel in their cores and evolving into giant stars now, so they're well along the path to changing their colour and dimensions. That's basically the head of the Taurus, the bull, is an asterism. So anyway, watch out for that. And there's a binocular view of the Hyades, so you can fit them in comfortably in binoculars. So quite a field of view in binoculars. In fact, it's exapupil of 7 millimetres. Well, you're wasting light there if you're old. Very bright. And 7 magnifications. So 6.4 degrees. So you can easily fit them in. Well, not easily, but comfortably. All right. And there's a picture of the Pirate Moon cluster. Now, here's a cluster you might not have heard of. There are lots of clusters. I picked this one out because it's quite bright, 6.4. You can easily see this in binoculars. 150 million years old, 27.8 minutes, so it's almost the size of the moon in diameter. So that's a nice little cluster. Between the horns, if you look there, probably 5 degrees south of Aldebaran, or southeast of Aldebaran if you like, looking at it that way. Pirate Moon cluster, remember that one? And over here, surveys indicate that 90% of all clusters dissolve after 1 billion years. So because of tidal forces, past the other rogue stars, other things, they actually dissipate. And I didn't realise they had a life of about 1 billion years. So some of these things are halfway through their life already. They'll be quite different. Well, beyond our lifetimes.
Who did they survey?
Sorry?
Who did they survey?
I don't know. I guess they've looked at. Anyway, the last thing I wanted to show you was Aldebaran itself and the beautiful colour of the star. Spectacular, rather gorgeous image of it. Now the Pleiades, just a bit about the Pleiades. Do you know the names of the Pleiades? I've got a little quiz for you later. I didn't bring any chocolates, but I've got a quiz, but that's on the right. You'll just bear with me. So this is pointing the right way. So in the northern hemisphere, it's pointing that way. So I see an arrow shape. Mummy and Daddy are at the back. So over here on the right, I should get my other pointer and use that, but I won't bother. So on the right there, on the extreme right, Atlas and Pleione. So Mummy and Daddy, and then the ones you see, Alcyone, Merope, and Maya are amongst the brightest, and the one at the front there. Asterope is a double. Some people can see 2 stars. I don't know how, but they can with good eyesight. Naked eye, I'm talking about, and there's Electra at the front. And Celiano. So they're the names. Yes?
Are all those names Titans?
No. They're just like nymphs.
No, Atlas is a Titan.
Yes, but his daughters aren't. No, they're not considered that. They're just good like naiads and dryads and, I've never heard it referred to as
How
time.
many stars did you say there are?
Sorry?
How many stars did you say?
Oh, there are several hundred in Pleiades.
Yeah, the main ones.
Sorry?
Main ones.
Oh, 5. Atlas, Alcyone, Merope, Maya, and Electra are the biggest ones. Oh, and so on.
Sorry, I was reading quickly. I thought you said 7, and there's 8 there.
Yeah, because these two are close together. That's the road.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the two stars. All right. And Taigita, sorry. Yes. So, yeah, 110 arc minutes across. So, 60 arc minutes in a degree, so we're looking at almost 2 degrees. So it's quite a wide field. 250 hot stars, not the 6 or 7 we see. Now, to sum it all up, we've always thought, people looked at this and they thought these stars have actually created this, they've been born out of this blue dust that you see around all the reflected dust, but they haven't. They've actually drifted into it as a group. So they're gravitationally bound, and they've moved into this all from sun dust cloud, but not the one that, not the molecular cloud here. So they've driven through and they've lit up all this material and scattered blue light because of they're all B-type stars. So that's exactly why it's like that. Interesting. So there's no relationship between the nebulosity you see and the birth of those stars. They're not related to it. Which is interesting. So reflection nebulae. Now, a quick view of what sort of magnification is through a pair of binoculars. That's what you'd see, 7x50s, ordinary binoculars. And then, now this is using my 20mm Pentax lens at a magnification of 35 through my small telescope. So 35 magnifications, regardless of that, whatever telescope you've got, 35 magnifications will give you that kind of 2-degree field of view. You can fit them beautifully. You need some magnification to see them clearly. You wouldn't use too low power. So 35 is probably pretty good.
Except we don't see that blue.
No, you don't see the blue. And in fact, yeah, you've got to take photographic exposure to pick up the nebulosity. But even so, pretty blue stars, you'd see a very nice image.
If you look at the logo on some Subarus, the background is blue, some is black.
Yeah, I've never noticed that.
You will now.
Oh, good, now, right.
I was going to say the astronomers refer to that as the 7 sisters.
Yeah.
So they must be able to see 7.
Yeah, yes. Now, this beautiful object, the Triangulum Galaxy. Now, it's low on the horizon, I know, but it actually, I think it transits at about 8 o'clock around 31st of December. So it's at its high point there. Down here, it's something like 12 degrees or 13 degrees above the horizon, but a bit earlier it might be 16 or 17 degrees above the horizon to give you a better look. So wait till things transit. You can look at this in your planners for the night, you can look at Stellarium, whatever, and see when something transits because it tells you. But this would be a really nice sight through a reasonably moderate-sized telescope. Have you had a look at it?
A couple of times.
Yeah.
It's very faint.
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone.
Extremely faint.
Extremely faint, yeah.
It doesn't look like that.
It's actually quite big.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a big object. It's 1 degree by 41 minutes is a substantial galaxy.
Its magnitude is what?
5.7, yeah.
But it's spread over.
That's it, yeah, that's right. That's the thing with galaxies. They get all that brightness and they compact into a point, well, this would be like a star of magnitude 5.7. But that's deceptive because you all know with the inverse square law, you spread the light out and you end up with a very dissipated light.
So that would be really cool at 42 degrees north.
Yeah, 42.
Well, ordinary is just right next door to Andromeda, and Andromeda is really cool.
Yeah. Now, this is only a few million light years away. So, 3.2 million light years away, 40 million stars, 61,000 light years of diameter, and quite a size, 1 degree by 41. So, now that's an image by the Spitzer telescope in infrared of the same galaxy. And here is an image in ultraviolet, which I've never seen before. I don't know if you've ever seen this in UV light. And what took it? This curious little telescope called GALEX, a galactic explorer, and that's been decommissioned in 2013. But I don't know why would you decommission something as expensive as that. What do they mean by that? Did it burn up? Did it go into orbital decay? Did they harvest it?
I'm sure it's one of the fuel.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's still got decay. It's going to eventually hit the ground, isn't it? What a shame. But yeah, so it did 10 years ago. So it was launched in 2003.
Probably can't steer it anymore.
Sorry?
They probably can't steer it anymore.
No. Well, once the fuel goes, yeah, that's right. GAIX, so also known as Explorer 83. Now there's a field of view using my 31mm Baader and my telescope, ExoView 4.5, 22 magnifications, that's what you see. Pretty bright, it'd be brighter at the low magnifications, but it's still small.
If you're expecting something bright, you won't see it.
No.
It appears like a faintest bit of fog or something.
Yeah. Well, the shame is it's low down too. Yeah. So
my best view is on Mount Wellington.
oh right.
Where it's a little bit higher. It's still very faint.
Very faint. This is a better view with a Pentax 10. So this is 70 magnifications on my telescope, on the small 4-inch telescope. Yeah. So anyway, look out for it. Triangular. Might be interesting to spot it. See if you can spot it at least. Now looking east, what a scenario. Up the top, we've got Orion dominating the sky, and a beautiful constellation. You know summer's here when Orion's rising. And we'll talk a bit about that shortly. Over on the right is Canis Major. Orion is always accompanied by his hunting dogs. The one at the top, Canis Major, the big dog, and the one at the bottom, the small dog. And in between them, Monoceros. So Canis Minor and Monoceros. Canis Minor is piggybacking on the back of Monoceros the unicorn. So if I were to put the images out here, the Monoceros, the unicorn, that's its hindquarters. Its forelegs are here, and its neck and mane and unicorn are on this side. Monoceros is Greek for one horn. So Canis Minor is piggybacking on the back of this. That's what I remember. Well, everything's upside down, of course, because we're down here, and the people who do all this stuff are up north. Canis Major, the big dog, dominated by, of course, its brightest star, Sirius. Now, why did I put that there for another reason? You know how when you get your telescope and you're lining it up, and the most annoying thing is it'll say for alignment, use these alignment stars, and one of them will be at Hara, have you heard about Hara, or Wesen, and they're all in Canis Major. So if you want to know where stars are, if you know where you're looking roughly, if you see Sirius, you'll know you're looking in the right direction, because these stars, Wesen and Hara, Aludra on the tail. The dog's upside down, by the way. That's a tail. Head up here, there's a head. This looks like K9. Get it? K9, Dr. It's sort of a bit like that. That's where you need to look if you're looking at those stupid alignment star names that Skywatcher mounts always come up with. To the endless frustration of observers, because they can't use GPS. Anyway, not properly. Oh, what's in here? Where back to my point? I'm curious. Right, so here's Orion. Now, this was a picture I took a few years ago in February, with a 58mm lens. So there's a bit of trailing you can see. If you look close, you can see the stars starting to trail. But I like the lens because it reproduced colours beautifully. This is a Voigtlander, a German design lens made by Cassina, a Japanese company, who makes nice lenses. And up the top, well, we'll see how many of these things you know. That star is. Sorry. Rigel. Okay. What's to the left of Rigel up here that you can't see? The witch head, good, we'll keep that in mind. I see it too, number 18. We're going to, I haven't got it in my discussion here. Number 2 over here, what is it? This is where you get the chocolate. We don't get the chocolates, you get virtual chocolates. Does anyone know? This is Saif. Saif means sword. Another Arabic name. That is an amazing, massive supergiant star. It's, I think from memory, it's 750 light years away. and it's a multiple star. In fact, I think it's 5 stars. So, incredible. Regal is multiple as well, of course. Now, down here, number 3. Beetlejuice, you all pass, that's good. And down here, the Amazon. Bellatrix, the Amazonian, yes, Bellatrix. And let's see how we go up here. That one there. Sorry? No, that's the other way around. The top one. Mintaka, yeah, Delta, this is Delta, Delta Orionis. And about 950 light years or something away. Now, these 3 line up as the pyramids do, curiously. Beautiful alignment with the 3 pyramids of Giza. Strange. What's the middle one? This is a massive star. It's huge. You remember what it's called? Al-Nilam. And then the top one, Al-Natak, which you mentioned. Yeah. So there's Al-Natak. So Zeta, Epsilon, and Delta. Mintaka is the nearest to the ecliptic. And so I think it is either eclipsed by the moon or it comes down close, grazing occultation of it. So that's an interesting one. Now, what's that star?
Very small.
Sorry?
Very small.
Very small. Saif al-Jabbar, something. Eta Orionis. Yeah, it seems inconspicuous, but you can always see it with the naked eye. So, and in fact, you won't find many places with that name on them. I don't know why. Now, does anyone know that is? That's Sigma Orionis, yeah. And this is the star that lights up the Horsehead Nebula and causes problems as some stuff. So Sigma Orionis, just above Al-Natak. And up here, what's this down here? What's that bottom bit of patchiness? It's a nebula. I'll give you a clue. NGC 1977. The running man. And underneath the running man is, of course, M42, the Orion Nebula. You will know that one. And above it, what is this thing up here? Anyone know? Now, this is a beautiful cluster of stars. Beautiful, very bright. And when you take pictures of Orion, you'll always see this. Always. There'll always be in the field, unless you've got a really narrow, very narrow, 1 degree or something. Oh, sorry, my book is your way. Does anyone know what it is? NGC 1980. And it's just remember the Lost Jewel of Orion. I love that name. Lost Jewel. Yeah. So that's got a rather lovely title. So when you see pictures of Orion, you'll always, in fact, I'll point that out to you shortly. So here's Orion, photographed by none other than our friend Miguel Bernal Andreo, #1 astrophotographer in the world, amateur astrophotographer. And I don't know how many hours. I think this is obviously a mosaic, because it's a big constellation, so you really put it together. The witch at the top left, you can recognise all the stars. Look at the nebulosity, and of course Barnard's loop here. And if you look closely, just quickly, I'll zip through there. It's called the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex because it's a lot of molecular cloud around it. That's the Orion Nebula, NGC 1976. The running man's 1977, by the way. And over here is NGC 1980 that we were just talking about. And if you look here, you can see 1980 there. You want to see that? So the arrow is pointing to it. So that's always in the picture. Very pretty. And over here, further down south, if we look closely, you've got a close-up here of the Horsehead and the Flame Nebula and Al-Natak. So, which is right next to the Flame Nebula there. And the middle, that's quite wide field here because you've also got Al-Nilam in the field. So that's that section there. The Horsehead and the Flame Nebula. Now the Flame Nebula has other names. The Tank Tracks Nebula. Tank Tracks. the Maple Leaf Nebula, the Lips Nebula, the Burning Bush Nebula, that one I get, the Burning Bush, because it does look like a burning bush, and the Ghost of Alnitak. So, so there's some interesting names. I don't know who comes up with these. So, and then of course is the Running Man, which you're familiar with anyway. So there's a close-up of the Flame Nebula down the bottom. And it does look, you turn around the other way, I'll put it upside down to orient it the way we'd see it, make it off. But that's, yeah, quite remarkable. There have been infrared shots of, what do you call them? Radio astronomy shots of this, and they can see that behind that dust there's a lot of stars, which we can't see with the naked eye. But anyway, now for something really unusual. Casper the Friendly Ghost, you can't see it. That's a ghost. No, I wanted to show you. Now, have you ever seen pictures of this? I've seen a lot of pictures of it and wondered exactly where it was. And it's this little patch. If you look up here, it's that little patch there. Straight down from this area here. So, beautiful, quite bright, can be seen in a telescope, but not particularly, you won't see much of it, it's fuzzy. But photographically, quite spectacular. People taking some beautiful photos there. So that's Messier 78. So that's something you may not have been aware of. And there's a Vista telescope infrared image using the ESA's telescope in Chile. And boy, can you see a lot more when you look at those different wavelengths. It's astonishing once you get through all the cloud. And the red stuff over here on the right is new stars being born. Now that's one huge interest to photograph. If we ever get around to it. Oh dear. And here's a close-up of the flame. Quite spectacular. I think that's Hubble, a Hubble image. The Flame Nebula 2024. Now, what is this page doing here? Well, I've got a brand new toy, a beautiful book, Interstellar's Deep Sky Atlas and Deep Sky Guide, which I bought, and it is fantastic. You remember that book, Turn Left at Orion, by Guy Cosolmagno, the Vatican astronomer? It's a spiral-bound book, Turn Left at Orion. We often brought it along to NSE courses now to show people. That's full of sketches. Well, that's like this on steroids. This is it on steroids. This is amazing. It's a Cambridge University publication, and you can find just about, though I found something they didn't have in there, but because they don't pick everything, but they pick a lot of the best things to look at through a telescope of different sizes. And they tell you which telescope to use. Now, 2024 is up here. It says Flame Nebula. Mixed emission and reflection, dark cloud in centre, use no filter. Keep Alnitak outside filtered here, because Alnitak is blinding, of course. So you get little handy hints, but sometimes they'll say use an O3 filter, an oxygen 3 filter. So you only have one band of light to look at something. Instead of all the frequencies, you only look at the oxygen band, and you see much more. And they give you advice on this. And it is fantastic. Look, visible in 4 inches, visible in 8 inches. I love it. And these sketches are by the authors. And they're not what they see once, but over hours of observation. You don't get that by looking at it. Oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. It won't look like that. You need to spend a long time observing it to pick up these details in the clouds. So there's the Flame Nebula anyway.
And these pages, Richard, its primary focus is to present information.
Oh, it's got that. It's got beautiful deep sky survey plates in red and blue on the left, which I'll show you in a moment. You'll come across them. I didn't bring it along. Now let's look at Monoceros for a moment. Now do you all know what this patch is down here? Probably the one single thing Monoceros is famous for, the Rosette Nebula. Rosette Nebula. Let's have a look at a couple of things here. But first, this object here. Would you believe the book I just referred to didn't have this in there? It had NGC 2300, NGC 2300 something else, but it didn't have this anywhere. And so they didn't highlight any details about it. But this is called Hagrid's Dragons cluster, or the Great Bird. Here's another thing from I think it's a Sky Guide, one of those. So the Great Bird cluster, Hagrid's Dragons cluster, Copeland's Golden Worm. I don't know how to Copeland's Golden Worm, but anyway, discovered by William Herschel, visible through 7x50 binoculars, considered the best open cluster for small telescopes in binoculars. I've never seen it. Have you seen it, Steve? Oh, yeah. Would you agree with that, or do you think they're exaggerating?
No, it's not.
It's not. Well, anyway, I read that, I thought I'd include it. So, well, let's look out for that one.
Christmas tree cluster. Richard, you go.
Sorry?
Christmas tree cluster is the other one in my house.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And with the Foxfur Nebula and all that sort of stuff too. I steered away from the things that we normally look at, apart from a couple of things. 165 million years old, 6 arc minutes, it's not very big, but enough to look at through binoculars and other objects. Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's 140 magnifications and all that. So, now my telescope, it's a 5mm eyepiece. So it's pretty high power, but you don't have to use high power. And of course, that object there is the Rosette Nebula. Beautiful thing, just a beautiful thing. Young stars have pushed away the hydrogen alpha cloud, having been born inside NGC 24. Here's Interstellar Deep Sky Guide. This is where I got it from, and there's information on this particular thing, the Rosette. I think I've got here's a section of it. Rosette, dark centre with open cluster NGC 2244. Ring of faint nebulosity contains several globules, which are these things up here, with little dark patches. Bulk globules. Use very low power and O3 filter, oxygen 3 filter for overall view. Low to medium power and oxygen 3 filter for globules. In case you're wondering, you can buy these filters to screw into the diagonal of your diagonal mirror. 2-inch thread, 1/4, screw the thing in, and you can look at something like that and see more. I bought an ultra high contrast filter, which I would swear works. I looked at Edith Coronai's through it and I saw more than I would normally see of Edith Coronai's cloud by using that filter, single filter. So you don't have to filter it, right? Just a single filter. Yeah. So there you go. So this is from the book. There's to answer your question, Chris, that's the left-hand side. They're all plates combined in red and blue frequencies from Palomar Observatory and other places, and they've combined the plates. And if something's more red, then that's going to be the colour of the actual nebula. So you get blue as well. And they really are beautifully done. The whole book is just mesmerising. And U.G. Ugg is the name of one of the authors. And 16-inch, that's what he saw through a 16-inch telescope. 59 amplifications using an oxygen 3 filter. It's all down there in the little code. So you can see what you can see from the sketches.
And this is a reasonably new publication? Or
yeah, it's been out for a few years, I suppose, 2 or 3 years. But when I got it from Amazon, it arrived in a brown paper bag that was torn. I was pathetic. I wrote a scathing with it, and I got a refund on the spot. And then I actually bought it from the publishers, and it arrived beautifully boxed. So the other one was just, the cover was shredded and the spiral binding was coming apart. And they're $150 each, I think. They're not cheap. But they're just, you can sit there and just stare for hours and stuff. They're just beautifully done. Beautifully done.
What's the idea of what filters do you
use? Yeah, well, when I get that, you get the atlas and you get the guide, and they go together because the numbers in the atlas are exactly the same as the numbers in the guide. So you can see the whole area, and then you can see the specifics. Very cleverly put together. So a bit of Canis Major here with all those. There's the M41. Now M41 is a beautiful cluster, and another one there, 2362. M41 is up here, the Little Beehive. Have you ever seen that? Very pretty. I've actually seen that one for a change. M41. Cluster covers the area of the full moon, 100 stars, including several red giants, the bright which are type K3. Paramagnitude 6.3 is near the centre, and some white dwarfs as well. So the red giant in the middle there is probably the one that we're referring to. there's always giants and dwarfs. It's all fairy tale stuff. Anyway, remember, was it NGC 3532, the football cluster, has got something like 13 red giants and 7 red white dwarfs on there. I just think that's fun. Anyway, back to this. The diameter of the cluster is 25 to 26 light years, estimated 190 million years old, magnitude 4.5, 2,300 light years away, and it will scatter in 500 million years. Now, this is another interesting cluster, this one down here, 2362. Rather beautiful, described by a whole lot of people, Wikipedia included, who said it's a beautiful appearance, the bright white star being surrounded by a rich gathering of minute companions in a slightly elongated form and nearly vertical position, which is a good description of it. Magnitude 3.8, 6 arcminutes across, 20 light years across, 5,000 light years away. 100 to 150 stars, plus 500 more in a halo around it. That's one to look out for. And at a magnitude 3.8, that would be quite a sight in anything. Binoculars, telescopes, anything like. So there you go, 2362 in Canis Major and M41. And there's I think that's a Hubble short. Oh, sorry, I skipped that. I meant to pay. The Tau, this one, it's called the Tau Canis Majoris cluster. Mexican jumping star cluster. Pirates Jewels cluster is the other name. I forgot to mention that. Oh. Now I'm getting really confused. Okay. So, now looking south, what do you see looking south? The usual culprits, Ediculae, I'm not going to dwell on these because you already know them. The football cluster, which I really recommend you look through. I mean, when you see that through a telescope, it's just beautiful. Doesn't matter what you've got. Dazzling, several hundred stars, and they look like you're looking through, it's no one that's called wishing well, it's like looking at silver coins through water, you know, fountain. Just beautiful, beautiful thing. Next to that is, this is the cluster I'll be concentrating on, 3766, what I won't concentrate on, you'll probably know it, some of you know that. It's right next to that red patch there, the red patch is the running chicken. I see, what's it, 2944, so they're all clusters, sorry? They're all clusters, yes. So, chocolate for Steve. Okay, now over on the right are a couple of there's a galaxy and a globular cluster. Now the galaxy, we'll keep an eye on that galaxy here, here in Parvo, and keep an eye on this globular cluster. And over here, we're going to see that little white dot there, coloured pan stars. And boy, I'm going to surprise you, they call it pan stars. We'll come to that in a minute. Okay. So, we're now looking at the star, the cluster we just mentioned, the Pearl cluster 3766, Eta Carinae up the top, Crux down the bottom, and 3766 right there in the middle. And here is the running chicken. You can make out the two legs. Can't see the leg. And over here, in amongst us is the Statue of Liberty Nebula and a few other bits and pieces which are beautiful. 35672, I can't remember, 3572 for the Statue of Liberty, which is very small but beautiful object, stunning object to photograph. So, Southern Cross down the right there. So 3766, what a corker. Isn't that pretty? The rival to the gem cluster just next to Eta Carinae. Yeah, so, beautiful. Pearl cluster, rich man's jewel box. Not a poor man's jewel box. Magnitude 5.3. B-type stars, you can see a couple of red stars. 12 arc minutes across, 5,500 light years away. That would be a beautiful object at any time in a telescope. Now, just a quick view of NGC 6744, that galaxy in Parvo I was telling you about. So, what a pretty sight. And this field of view, this is about 200 magnifications. Now, of course, if you're looking at that magnifications, it would be, you'd fill the frame all right, but it'd be fuzzy and pretty, you wouldn't see too much. You need something like a 16-inch light bucket or bigger.
I've tried, I don't know how many times to see that, but
No.
I've been able to see it.
No.
Private up.
I reckon that would be a 16, 18-inch telescope job. But anyway, the intermediate spiral galaxy, 31 million light years away, 20 by 13 minutes is quite a size. And apparently it's got a distorted companion with it. I think that might be that one down there, I'm not sure. But yeah, you can tell when you look at pictures, sometimes you can see they're very grey, so it must be faint. Someone's used very high gain, you know, and so you've got more noise and signal, and you can tell something's a long way off, or it's very faint to start with. So anyway, it's a mimic. They reckon our Milky Way looks just like that, pretty much, apart from a bar. And it has got a sort of, it's a hub thing. Now down here is an interesting globular cluster. Have you seen this one, Steve?
Many times. It's my favourite.
Favourite. Yeah, and it looks beautiful. I haven't actually seen it, so I'm going to make my mission this summer to have a look at that. And there's Pan-STARRS, common Pan-STARRS. Now the interesting thing is, magnitude 5.7, it's travelling at a staggering 113,000 kilometres an hour, which is really motoring. At magnitude 5 by the end of December, so it's going to be quite bright. And it's circumpolar after mid-December, so it won't set for quite a while. So you've got to see it through the night sky. And it's moving in this direction. So it's moving up through Parvo. So you keep an eye out for that. Yeah. Great stuff. Something to look out for.
Why is it getting brighter?
Sorry?
Why are we perceiving it to be
close proximity to us, I guess, and proximity to the sun in the right position, and then it'll dwindle again. I think it's turning the corner pretty soon. It should be heading out.
Yes, I thought it already was.
Yeah, it's fast moving. Here's that Parvo galaxy again, but with different magnifications. So that's 100 magnifications on the left, and that's, what was that one there? That's a lot, that's 171 magnifications. But anyway, I'm going to watch out for that one and see if I can find it through the Big Bertha. And there's the Parvo globular cluster again, and some 140 magnifications. The starfish or the windmill, it's called, 13,000 light years away, magnitude 5.4, brightest globular in the sky. No wonder you like it, because of the Omega. What are the others? Omega 47 and 22 in Sagittarius.
In a telescope, you can resolve what
can you?
What the core is.
Oh, right. Well, there you go. There's a big target for the summer, the Parvo globular. 2/3 of the moon size. Easy take for binoculars, but small. With telescopes used 70 to 140 times. That's my advice. Somewhere around there. If you want to get a good close up view of it, if you've got a telescope. And that's a Hubble image of the middle of it. Wow. Why don't they make things look like jewels?
I don't see it in that detail, but that's more representative of what you see. You do actually resolve some of those yellows.
Gee. Wow. Oh, beautiful. So that's the core of 6752. Anyway, so moving on. So now, looking to the west, what have we got? We've got Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn's getting lower and lower in the sky. You'll still be able to see it for a while, but it's an evening object. Jupiter's not too far behind at the moment. Fomalhaut, the brightest star in the southern Fishes, is a beautiful star. You see pictures of it, multiple star. it's 25 light years away, yeah. It's a triple system. Yes, a multiple star, worth looking at through a telescope. I always say defocus. If you see a really blue star, defocus it and you get, you can see the colour on this big blob. And it's, I've done it with Regal, and Regal's stunning when you defocus it. Absolutely. Takes your breath away. You think, why do I look at that as a point? better to get it made, make it blurry, make it big, and you can see the blue. You don't need good eyesight to see the blue. So you can see that's an interesting multiple system. 25 light, 17 times the luminosity of the sun, so it's not that much brighter than the sun. But young, 440 million years old. So now they found a ring, a debris ring around that star. And they've also found planets, Fomalhaut B, and I'm not sure about others. They reckon there are at least 2 planets inside this disk, inside the disk. So that's, by the way, that's by the ALMA telescope, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile. Yeah, so in the desert there, that huge array of telescopes, radio telescopes. Now, what's this object? We're looking at Aquarius. Helix Nebula. So NGC. What's our site? Astro Imaging Tasmania.
The Facebook page.
Yeah, it's great. What's the button? Yeah, the chat to image one. I'll keep going.
We usually do
10 to 10. 9:50 at the latest, usually. Anyway, let's move on. So that's 200 magnification. Now this is a pretty faint object, 25 arc minutes across. That interstellar arm guy I was telling you about recommends using an oxygen filter and low power to see. And that is the Spitzer telescope infrared image of the same thing, and it's called the Eye of Sauron because, I mean, look at it, it's got other names, but the Eye of God and the Eye of Sauron, I like the Sauron because it looks absolutely evil. Anyway, so it's a planetary nebula, we know the planetary nebulas. Now, over here, there's a really interesting formula, M30, you would see this one, Steve? Yeah. Is there anything, Steve? This is the, I haven't seen this one, the jellyfish globular, 27,000 light years away. Magnitude 7.2. Let's say that's quite often. Pick that up, you know. Binoculars, let alone a telescope. 160,000 times the solar masses, so yeah, retrograde motion. So it's going the wrong way around the galaxy, the inner halo of the galaxy. It's not following the normal path of the other globulars. Very dense core, 1 million solar masses per cubic parsec. A parsec is 3.263 light years. So in a cubic parsec, 3.2 by 3.2 by 3.2, I don't know what that is, 3.2 cubed, you can work that out, 3.26 cubed, but it may be 12, 11 or 12 cubic parsecs. At least, so 1 million suns in that tiny space is incredible. That's like, that would be one of the tightest globulars around, I reckon, but it'd have to be.
That would be 1 million stars.
Yeah.
We're in the centre of it. That would be 1 million stars, no further out than our closest star, which is
Proxima Centauri.
Proxima Centauri.
Proxima Centauri is only 4 light years.
No.
So yeah, even less. Just imagine that. That's just frightening. I mean, that's really a case of opening the newspaper at midnight and being up
To put that in context, in the night sky, we youngsters with sharp eyes in a dark sky can see about 5,000 stars.
Yeah.
I'm 70 at my age. Naked eye in a dark sky, I can only see, supposedly only see about 3,700 stars.
Yeah.
That's all we can see in the night sky. That's 1 million.
Yeah.
That would be 1 million visible stars.
But they would be so close together. I mean, that'd be a dazzling sight to be in the middle of that, wouldn't it?
Be good to live near a beach.
Yeah. Use at least, mind you, you get some UV, wouldn't you? Use at least 100 magnifications to see it, yeah. So these are spectacular, M30, a very nice one to look at. Now, to finish, I thought I'd show you aperture fever 50,000 BC. No, moon still looks same. You'd say this most powerful one, eh? Just love it. Oh, things like that just really. So no, it's the only one that is a far sight. I've got something inconvertible that's not a cartoon. You won't believe it when I get it. Now, do you want to have a little break? Let's have a break. The other thing's a lot shorter than that, so it's not very long. Excellent.
Thank you.
So, no.
Sorry.
Just one more night. We're not doing my glasses. Okay. So let's escape.
I know.
So close. Yeah, so far. Yeah.
I think it was
Saying that
Which colleague is well, maybe Austin, although it's
Yes, that's right. All right. I'll get this going. Yeah. I tell you what, you send me Sorry, I'll just shut this down.
I think we'll move on with the rest of Richard's talk. We'll get started. So we conclude before the security guys come and take someone to prison or to an isolation cell somewhere. Yeah, or else wondered. I think it's going to take us. There's no one again. Yeah, rules number one, don't drop the soap.
You've been there before?
No, that's good.
Okay. Right, news of the month, such as it is. Can we have the lights off, somebody? It won't be long. I'm going to give you a few minutes. This is not going to be long at all. I'll switch it. The master switch. There we go. Yeah. Sorry. Exactly, and it's always the same. Anyway,
music director.
just wait for yourself. Anyway, possible organic found. Look, I find this endlessly fascinating. Look at this photograph of Mars. Yeah, that's Jezero, right? But look at the colours. I mean, it's amazing. Now, in the base of the crater, they've discovered, in amongst all those deposits, so you had sedimentary rocks, but they've got magma, they've got igneous rock materials mixed in with them as well. So they talk about this area being having a delta, Jezero delta. Hang on, I'll put it up here. Perseverance revealing significant interaction between the rocks and liquid water. There's a lot of evidence, as we already know, of water having been on Mars. But this is just a good example of where they found organic compounds. Now, that doesn't mean it's life, because you can get carbon and hydrogen then existing without being organic, without having life being created from. Anyway, I'm particularly interested in this crater delta, because such formations can preserve microorganisms. It explains how deltas are created. We know what deltas, the Nile delta, and what delta is. Anyway, once the sediment is deposited in delta, it traps and preserves any microorganisms that exist. That's why they're interesting. However, the crater floor was more than restricted, containing igneous rocks called magma on the crater floor with minerals in them that recorded not just igneous processes but significant contact with water. But I just love that picture. And look at that colours. Something about it. Looks. Have you seen some of the latest images of the Martian surface and the reconnaissance orbiter as well? The colours are dazzling, and they're not fake. They're not added colour to show structures. So, now you all know this is launched on November 16. This is a view looking back from the spaceship, from Orion, back to, this is the European component of it, looking back to the Earth. Moon, from ESA's European Service Module, which is powering the Orion spacecraft as it goes on. Its mission, it's coming back December 16th or something. Soon, yeah, won't be too far away. It's heading into a distant retrograde orbit around the Moon, and it'll be the furthest object that's ever crewed object, although the crewman in here is fake. But it's going to be the furthest object it's ever got out. It beats Apollo 13, which was the second, but was the last record for being the furthest distance away in a crewed mission from the Earth. Anyway, during its time, Orion will break a record for the farthest spacecraft, man's spacecraft, man in inverted commas. These are a couple of pictures of things. So satellites, I think that's supposed to be a cube satellite, I'm not sure. The Artemis mission. So you all know the purpose of the mission eventually is to, well, it's going to help things on Mars, but first of all, they're going to be looking for water and oxygen on the surface of the moon and have a settlement. The Orion spacecraft will shuttle astronauts to a special thing called the Lunar Gateway, which will be above the moon. And that Lunar Gateway is like the International Space Station, and astronauts will descend from there onto the surface. And Artemis 3 is the mission where they will do that. They'll have 2 astronauts, but I don't know how far down the track they'll be. But Artemis, we're on Artemis 1, there's Artemis 2, which will be a crewed mission, which will only go around the moon and come back. And then Artemis 3 will be, presumably by then they've already started building the actual Lunar Gateway. I don't know when they're going to put that into orbit around the moon, but once they do, then they'll be able to send a spacecraft out there. Astronauts will be able to descend on the surface and do their stuff. It's quite pretty exciting, really. We live in exciting times. That's just a picture of the 1 million photos of the launch of the Artemis mission. And that's the general plan at the moment. Mission duration, 26 to 42 days. You can find this on the NASA site. This is Artemis 1, we've got Artemis 2, the same thing for Artemis 2 and the same thing for Artemis 3, if you're interested in looking at those. What gets me is the maths involved in all this, and thinking back to that wonderful movie about the women who did that during the Apollo years and computed all that in their heads. No computers. All of that done by pure mathematical skill. Astonishing, really. Anyway. So, now, look at this strange little red orange object floating in the space. This is inside Orion. Now, what is that little orange object? It's Snoopy. Snoopy catches Orion. And he's tethered as well. Now, they did that to prove that there was zero G. To see that a zero G state, they actually put that in there to show that a zero G state was occurring and it wasn't a fake, I suppose, because you'd have your people say, give it to Bob. But anyway, there it is. Please, later in society. So there it is floating. So apparently, it talks here about Schultz, the author of Snoopy, having a long-standing relationship with NASA. And so they decided to put him on the spacecraft in his custom orange outfits, the same colour that the astronauts will use when they actually get going there themselves. Anyway, how exciting. So I thought I'd share that with you. Now, I just love this image. This is a James Webb Telescope image, a protostar. So this is the very, very start of a star's life. And you can see these massive knots of gas. They own nothing. A normal telescope wouldn't be able to do this at all. And in the middle of it, you can just see there's a band, see a line through it? That's a protostellar disk of dust around a star that's been formed. And I thought this was a beautiful, stunning thing. What an achievement. It's about 100,000 years old. I think it's in Taurus somewhere. And it's filmed with the Near Infrared Cam on the James Webb. You can tell it's really faint and hard because you can see the graininess. I mean, but it still managed to pick up all this detail. Have you seen this James Webb image? Isn't that amazing? Now compare that, as I will in the next slide, with the Hubble image of the same thing. Now people say, I saw someone write, Hubble telescope, $10 billion. Look at the photo, and there's an amateur astronomer's photo, just most as good. $5,000 telescope. But you can't make that comparison here. There's a really big difference, as you'll see. Anyway, just look at the detail of the pillars of creation. First made famous by the Hubble, which I'll show you back in 1995. Aside from being exceptionally beautiful, the new image will help researchers count more precisely the number of uniform stars on the nebula, as well as how much gas and dust is in the region. so they get a clear idea of what's going on. Isn't that astonishing? I just love that. Eventually, we on to wow. And here is, side by side, the Webb on the right and the Hubble on the left of the same thing.
That's 30 years of technology.
Yeah. But yes, that's right. I mean, things get superseded.
I still think that's impressive.
Yeah, well, wait till you see my last slide for doing the technology. I can't wait to show you that one. Anyway, it's still impressive, the Hubble. It's held its own, hasn't it? But it's not quite as able to see as much material as Pillars of Creation. Oh, you all know what that is in the Eagle Nebula, of course. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, the Pillars of Creation, one of the claws of the Eagle, M16. Okay. There's another protostar. I found this. I thought it's a beautiful. Have you ever seen this? I've been digging these up because this is a small dense cloud of dust blots out the centre of this Hubble space. This is with Hubble, not with James Webb. The dense core is so thick we can't see the centre, but it's giving us a glimpse of the complexities of star-making machinery. So that's in Serpens, an area called the Aquila Rift, which I have never heard of, and lies about 650 light years away. Beautiful, stunning. Anyway, I just thought I'd show a few images, and now
Big Godzilla.
That's Godzilla on the right. I was a bit slow. Do anyone recognise what that object is? It's the Cone Nebula, but in a different view of it. Usually you see this big red cone. The Cone Nebula is a rhinoceros, at one end of that big landscape, it's got the Christmas tree cluster and the fox fir nebula and other things. Anyway, 2,500 light years from Earth. Hydrogen gas at Pyrrhon is 7 light years long, and stars are being born in it. And the reason they're orange instead of blue is because of the filters used. They're actually blue because of the filtration used for this particular image. But you can actually see it's amazing. This is with the ESO telescope. Which one is it? Southern Observatory ESO. Look at the wisps of gas in that. Fantastic. Yeah, pretty impressive image. So the thing is twice as long as the distance from us to Proxima Centauri. So that gives you an idea of how big it is. Actually, a volume of dust, and it's a cold molecular cloud until it heats up when it concentrates and forms stars, when it collapses. I want to finish on a light note because I just want to show you a few pictures from these telescopes. What a home computer of the future would look like. 2004. This is from Popular Mechanics, 1954. Now, anyway, scientists from the RAND Corporation have created this model to illustrate how a home computer, in inverted commas, would look in the year 2004. However, the needed technology will not be economically feasible for the average. We're talking about economically feasible. You'd have to build your house around the computer. I just can't get over this. Also, the scientists readily admit that the computer will require not yet invented technology to actually work. But 50 years from now, scientific progress is expected to solve these problems. With teletype interface and the Fortran language, the computer will be easy to use. That's just priceless. I saw another picture, I couldn't find it, of a hard drive. I think it was a 250 megabyte hard drive, and it was the size of a refrigerator. Oh, dude. But isn't that what's the real format?
That's to steer around the stars.
But what's all this up here?
It's like a mouse.
Sorry.
You like a mouse.
Probably. And the printer, look at the TV, the monitor's at the top, the TV's
very ergonomic.
Oh, I just had to show that because I think it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But it just shows you how wrong you can be rather than how wrong. And you can't predict how fast technology develops. I mean, to think that your phone would kill anything that could be produced, you know, a lot of the things like more powerful than the Apollo 13 computers by a long shot. Sorry.
It looks like it's got a telex machine there in front for communication.
That's how you enter your data.
Yeah. But it's the wheel, it's the mouse. You can half expect him to say, guys, you know, I like the inside of a submarine, you know. It's so funny, yeah.
Well, the gauges are all from a steam plant. It's the same sort of setup you have in a steam turbine.
Yeah.
And apparently the term debugging came from those machines because moths used to get into the relays and they'd have to get the moths out. So that's where the term debugging came from.
During my summer holidays when I was 17, I worked at Cadbury's and over my holidays, and they had a mainframe in there which did all the payroll and everything, and it had those dot matrix printers, but the computer took up a room and it had cables, and I saw these guys with a panel off one part of the computer, and I nearly passed out. The back of it was just millions of cables. I could not believe how many wires were in it. It was all solid state stuff, you know, not the circuitry where it was just wires going. I thought, how could you find it? What did you repair? What if you touched the wrong wires? I don't know. Anyway, I looked at that and I thought that was really impressive. That was an IBM. And it had the tapes and all that, but I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, Richard, there's the very famous quote from an IBM chief executive somewhere in the 50s. Remember his quote? Now, I can see there could possibly be, in the future, the need for 5 computers in the world.
Yeah.
I can't see the need for any more computers.
It's almost like Victoria here is saying we've discovered everything. Scientists, you know, go on holiday now.
What were you going to say, Matty?
I had heard that Commodore 64 is in red rose.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. I remember you, Laurie, you had Commodore 64.
I've still got my Commodore 64.
You still got your Commodore 64?
Yes, me too, right?
Okay, folks, that's all. I only have a short little thing, as I said to you, just a few nice images that I... Oh, get hysterical.
Can I just check that? On the events page, it puts us down as the first January meeting being the 17th, and then then we seem to skip 24, and then the workshop is on the 17th, then we skip a week, and then it's the meeting at the end of the month. So
the meeting will be the last Tuesday of the month, and the workshop will be whatever Lee's date is, that's the 7th.
So we're skipping a week, because normally...
You mean a month?
No, normally we have the workshop one week and the following week is the meeting. But in January, the way the dates read, that on the 17th we have the workshop, the next week we have nothing, and then the week after that we have...
I'll check with Lee if that's the correct date. Our meeting will be the correct date, it's always last.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking we need to confirm that.
Yep.